Hey folks, Eonin here with another review. This time I'm bringing you the QSP Baby Penguin. This is an upcoming release from QSP and comes to me from the Apex group. Okay, now onto some specs. So this production sample has 14C28N steel. It is on a brushed satin blade. It has full stainless liners. It is running on ball bearings. And we've got some dark gray / black micarta scales. The usable fine edge on the knife is 2 1/8. The scale length is 3 1/4. And it has a tip to tail length of 5.5 inches. It weighed in on my digital scale at a very feathery 2.6 ounces. Alrighty, if you're a fan of the full-sized penguin, this 5th pocket-sized baby penguin will probably be a joy to own. I will show you real quick before we get too much further along. Here is one of my penguins next to the baby penguin. And as you can see, there is a considerable difference in size, but it is pretty much the same knife. Now, one thing I will make note of is that they are about the same thickness with roughly the same blade stock. So I really do dig that. Okay, moving right along. QSP has definitely been upping their game with knives lately, and I feel that is the case here as well. I feel like they've definitely upped their game with some of their current and upcoming releases. The build quality of this knife, like a few others that I've reviewed recently, is excellent. There's no play, there's good lockup. Everything looks really nice. The micarta looks fantastic, right? I've just fit and finish really, really good on this knife. The micarta is probably my favorite part of the knife. All the edges are finished, so that's very nice. And there is beautiful texturing on this. It looks like a gray black. I bet when this thing kind of patinas and oils itself in, it's gonna have, you can see a little bit of my hand sweat there, like it's gonna have a little darker feel to it and probably look black. But again, the micarta is super nice to finish the edges of texturing. The 14C28, I applaud QSP for offering more and more knives these days with 14C over D2. This is a brushed satin, so it doesn't tend to fingerprint quite as easily. You can see, you don't see the fingerprints as easily. So if they're gonna do satin, I kind of like this brushed satin look on it. I dig that. And the spine thickness up here, like I said, is similar to the original penguin, and lots of jimping. So when you are holding this thing in your hands, whether you choke up on it here to get all your fingers on it, which you can, my large glove-sized hands can barely get all fingers on there from this position, or whether you hold it a little further back in 3 and put your thumb there, it still feels natural. The jimping is done really nicely. So kudos to them on that. I love what they did. They didn't try to reinvent the wheel when downsizing a knife that a lot of people really love. It does feel great in your hand, and despite its small 5th pocket size, I do feel like I could probably do some halfway decent cutting with this blade. There's not a lot here, but I wouldn't be afraid to put some pressure behind this thing. So it does offer a decent length clip as well, despite being a 5th carry pocket knife. Let's take a look. Yeah, I mean, that's a full-size clip, right? That's pretty much a full-size clip. It's right there in the same league as the clip on the full-size penguin. Awesome for that too. Why? Because it's gonna be easy to carry. If it's got a little dinky, really weak clip, right? It's not gonna wanna stay in your pocket that well. So again, it's nice that they offered you a full-size clip. Are there any issues or suggestions on this up-and-coming knife? I do not have any issues with this knife. I really feel like This is a well done baby version of an extremely popular knife for QSP. The Baby Penguin, it's an apt name for it because it really is just a scaled down version of the other knife. But they did scale it down to the correct size. There is one suggestion. I did mention that it has a nice pocket clip on it. You can see it does have button head screws. They're both in the same place, which makes me think, because this mounts underneath, that this is, obviously it's a reversible clip, that's maybe why they did button heads. But I kind of wish at least either they had used a bevel-headed screw, and maybe they didn't do that because of the thickness here. I'm thinking that's probably why. But I can live with that because I feel like I see what they did. They wanted to hide the clip underneath the micarta. So I'll give them a pass on that, but that's probably the only thing I would look to try to change a little bit, only because all these other screws are recessed and then these obviously are sticking up. Does it bother me? Does it feel bad? Nope, it does not. So it's just a tiny little thing, but I can see why they went that way, because if you recess this, it would probably punch a big hole right through the micarta. So I guess that's not really much of an issue after all, but it is just one thing I did notice. Again, totally acceptable. I can live with it. Beyond that, I think that this is a solid offering from QSP that is sure to be a hit. So before I let you go, let me give you a couple of quick size comparisons. I've already shown this next to a full-size Penguin. Here you go one more time. There's the full-size Penguin. And then I'm going to show you a couple of other knives that are right in the same exact size range as this. I used this knife recently to size compare. This is the MKM Izanzo. And you can see, there you go. So a little bit beefier handle, a little bit longer here, and more height to it, but about the same or a little bit less fine edge cutting. Now here's a knife that a lot of people will be interested in comparing this to, because I do consider this to be a fifth pocket knife. I'm going to compare it to the Civivi Baby Banter, right? So there you go. So if you want to know what size your Baby Penguin will be, pull out your Baby Banter, if you own one, and go, okay, going to be this size. Now again, this is a fifth pocket carry knife, and I think it is going to be a great one. I think this is going to be a really, really popular seller for QSP. I'm sure it's going to come out in a few different colorways, and I wouldn't be surprised at some point to see a full titanium version of the Baby Penguin. But that is it, folks. That's all I got for you. There is QSP's Baby Penguin. Look for this knife to hit the market at some point in the future. I would say maybe the end of the year or sometime in the early part of 2023. We don't have an actual production date or a price on this knife yet, but you can kind of figure out what a Penguin with 14C and micarta on it is and base your price guesses from there. That's all I got for you today. Thanks as always for watching Ionan's Edge. Please consider hitting that like button down there for me, and also subscribing to the channel if you'd like future notifications. For everyone who already does subscribe, thank you very much, and stay sharp, folks.